Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Morrison from Brock Morrison, the Short Round Podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Wonderful? Did I say that right, Todd? I know you like to correct me. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is the launch of the Short Round Podcast. I hope you're excited. I hope you feel it deep down inside, just like I do. 100%. We have a whole lineup of shows already recorded with wonderful guests in the world of combat sports. I know you like it. Who wouldn't? Anyways, Episode 1 has Karate Combat World Middleweight Champion of the world, Ross Turbo Levine. That's what we're going to be watching here on the very first episode. When I say, Todd, hit that intro. Who is the intro by? Well, I'll tell you exactly by. I tell you exactly by. Is that even true, Todd? I'll tell you who the intro is from. It's from Get Dead. The song is called Stick Up. And to be honest with you, they're the best band in the world. Excuse me if you hear my daughter in the background watching YouTube. I mean, come on. She's 5. What do you expect? So, ladies and gentlemen, this show and every other show is brought to you by VSL Fight Equipment, where you can get custom fight gear made for you. You can get custom-made boxing gloves. You can get custom-made hand wraps. And I'm not just sitting there saying I like this company because they're a sponsor of the podcast. No. I'm saying I like this company because I have been using their hit sticks for training for over 4 years. I would show them to them, Todd, but they're in the back of my car in the trunk. That's how often I use them. I take them to the gym with me all the time. I use them on fighters at the gym. I use them on little kids so they can punch and kick it. They love it. So, let's just go ahead and roll that intro, Todd.
Let my blood turn this sand to mud. What you waiting for? I'm ready right now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. Like I said before, I love the fact that I get to do all these great things. You know, my position in karate combat as one of the American up-and-comers has provided a lot of opportunity to come on shows like this and tell my story and answer questions and get in touch with the community and ultimately my fans. So I appreciate you for reaching out to me and giving me this platform.
Oh, no, trust me, it's all mine. Anytime somebody takes any part of their day out to speak with me, I'm 100% happy about that, because really what this whole thing is about is I always ask the same 3 questions. I don't care who you are, you know, why and how you got into martial arts, what is it doing for you now, and what is the future for you in martial arts. So Ross, the Turbo. Every time I see that name, it just makes me think of that little snail.
You know, it's a funny story. So, number 1, don't be offended. I'll correct you. Turbo, period. Not the Turbo.
Not the period. Turbo. And you know what? As soon as I said it, I was like, I don't think there's a duh.
Yeah, just Turbo. So it's really the whole thing behind Turbo. It started. There was another martial artist that kind of gave me the nickname. I've always been a pretty big kid, you know, bigger for my size, muscular wise. And when I was like 14 or 15, this gentleman was like, man, this guy looks like an American gladiator. He looks like Turbo, you know, one of the gladiators.
Yeah.
So it just kind of stuck and people started calling me Turbo, and that was it. And as I got older, and it just stayed with me. And, you know, you can't give yourself a nickname. So I liked it. Yeah. It stuck with me. It was great. And when I wanted to start branding myself a little bit, I was like, Turbo, what could Turbo be? Like an engine or rocket? I'm like, all right, a rocket, definitely, 100%. And I wanted to make it kind of cartoony. So a little shameless plug. We got the turbo gear with the rocket on it. So it kind of became my thing. My nephew, when I went over and I brought them some shirts and everything, they're 4. They're like, Turbo. I'm like, you guys know who Turbo is? They're like, yeah, the snail. I'm like, oh, come on. So I'll take it, man. That snail was cool. It was a cool movie.
Nah, it was a cool movie. Yeah, and as soon as I said that, the Turbo, I was like, that's not right whatsoever.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right, so Ross, Turbo, Levine.
Sure.
Am I saying that last name correct? Because I suck at saying last names. All right.
Nailed it.
Ross, tell me, how did you get into martial arts and why you got into it?
You know, kind of I'll give you the abridged version, but essentially I never really wanted to get into martial arts. It was never on my radar. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. The thought of sitting still, listening to people tell me what to do and having to, pay attention was not really my thing. My brother got into it before I did, anti-bullying type of stuff. So my brother was 7 when he started. He's 2 years older than me. I didn't get into it when he did. Now, my dad was a martial artist. He's a black belt. My grandfather was in the military. My great uncle was in the CIA. So there's some lineage there with combat. But again, I never really wanted to. My brother won a trophy at an inter-school tournament, and bright shiny object at 7 years old. This is already 2 years into my brother's martial arts career. When he went to sleep, I stole the trophy, put it next to my bed, and of course that didn't fly. So my dad was like, "Hey, if you want that, you got to go and you got to work hard and compete." And I was like, "All right, cool, sounds good." So essentially, that was my introduction to martial arts and competition. So I was like, "Oh, there's reward if I do well." So there was some incentive there. So in reality, I got into martial arts for all the wrong reasons, and I ended up sticking with it. And I love it. It's changed my life completely from that point forward.
So it's interesting that you said your father was into martial arts and had a black belt. It's kind of funny. You can go either way with children, right? When it comes to what their parents are into. Like, I'm not into any sports whatsoever, except like martial art things. My dad was totally against it. My mom liked it, but he likes football and baseball and, NASCAR and all that. And I'm like, I'll sit down and watch it every once in a while, like a football game, and I used to go to the Mets spring training all the time. I had season tickets to it, and I thought that was fun, but it was still one of those things. So was that kind of one of the things, it's like, all dad's into it and, the family's into it, or you just didn't want to?
No, I mean, it was never pushed on us ever as a kid, really. Even my brother, we lived very normal lives. I mean, sure, we were exposed to like the martial arts movies, and my dad would watch Westerns. And so there was always like stuff like that. And I loved the Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and all that stuff. That was my era, 87 baby. So, I mean, we were exposed to it. And I remember even as a kid, before I started doing martial arts, when the K1 used to be on TV, I would sit and I was fascinated by it. I loved it, but I never really processed like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want to do that. I was more into rollerblading, and I was playing baseball in the schoolyard with my friends growing up in Brooklyn, and football and stuff like that, and just being a normal kid. When my brother started getting pushed around a little bit in school, my dad said, "All right, this is what you need." So he kind of knew and just acted as the GPS, right? Kind of guided him in the right direction. And then when I showed some more interest, then he was like, "Okay, this is something that you should try." And granted, my parents were very, very supportive. My dad was super hard on me. But I think now that I'm older, I know it's just because he saw that potential in me, and now I'm living up to it. So it's cool.
Yeah. So he pretty much wanted the best from you. He didn't care if you was the best. He just wanted the best from you, probably. Is that, am I correct on saying that?
Yeah. I mean, he saw my potential. I mean, I'm sure like any parent does. I'm not a parent yet, but I'm sure when I do have kids, I'll see the immense potential in them as well. And I think he needed to find ways to push my buttons to get that out, to bring the maximum potential forward. And not just in competition, just in general. He pushed me in school, he pushed me in, my relationships with people, and ultimately in martial arts. And when I was a late teenager, early 20s, we clashed a lot, as most, athletes and their dads do. But later on, our relationship really started to thrive, and he's been nothing but supportive. Same with my mom as well. It's my whole family, really. They love what I do, and they're behind me 1,000,000%.
Now, let me ask you a question, Ross. What style did you start in, and did you still study the same style? Because when I talk to a lot of different martial artists, some of them started off like I done a podcast which will be out in July. We'll start doing it with Jeff Speakman. Remember, he was in The Perfect Weapon. Yeah. Even as well known as he is for Kempo, he didn't start off with Kempo.
Was he a Taekwondo guy?
No, he's Kempo. 5.0, Ed Parker. Ed Parker Kempo.
Okay.
He started in Missouri. And I think it was maybe Goju-Ryu or something like that. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember. But he didn't start off with Kempo. So what style did you start in? And did you stick with that style, or did you switch, just to sit there and learn something a little different?
So I started off with ITF Taekwondo. That was the lineage that my father actually trained in. As a matter of fact, the same family. So there was Su Chung Kang, it's Kang System Taekwondo. That's who my father received his black belt from. He had 3 sons, 2 of which did martial arts. One of them opened up a school near us, near where we lived in Brooklyn, and that's where my dad took us. So we learned under the same lineage, the same system. So I did that for quite a while until I was about, I want to say I was 13, 14, when I was doing ITF, still strictly with Kang System. And then we decided, we wanted to get into more competition, and they were not against it, but they didn't want it to be a big show in the school. So, we decided we were going to leave, and we actually went to the brother who at the time was doing Olympic Taekwondo, the WTF Taekwondo. So we did that for a little bit. I ended up getting my 3rd dan black belt through the brother. So still same family, which was great. Hated the Olympic Taekwondo competitions. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like the style. So at that point, I was kind of on my own. I was getting more into the sport karate side of things. So I met and was introduced to a couple of really, really great individuals, one of which was Hakeem Walker, who was the first introduction to real high-level sport karate. I started teaching at an Amerikick school in Brooklyn with a friend of mine. We had an awesome staff. I was learning Ed Parker System Kempo to teach that as part of the American style that they were brewing up at Amerikick. And then eventually I just started kind of dabbling all over. I was introduced to my long-term coach and amazing friend and big brother, Jody Tension. And his style is, he calls it modern martial arts. It's, it's always evolving. And we did a lot of boxing, kickboxing, kind of touching all the different assets. And I just grew to just love training and love learning and being a good student and always trying to be a sponge.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, how, he wanted to keep adding to, involve his martial arts. And that was the funny thing with Jeff Speakman. He said, he learned from Ed Parker, and he has nothing but kind words to say about Ed Parker. Matter of fact, even that movie, The Perfect Weapon, was made for him to show off Kempo karate, Cool. So, but he even sit there and said, I had to start learning different things so our style will evolve, so he started learning ground fighting and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And he got a lot of slack from the Kempo community because they're like, why are you adding to this system? And he goes, that's what Ed Parker actually wanted. He wanted it to evolve. He goes, he didn't want it to stop with him. He wanted it to keep evolving. And I think when Ed Parker was, before he died, it was like Kempo 0.2 or something like that. And now Jeff Speakman has it up to Kempo 5.0 or something like that. And it's actually interesting, that you sit there and say that, because a lot of martial artists in schools and stuff will stop, once you learn all those katas, and you keep evolving, but nothing's added, and I think it's kind of sad, because if everything else is evolving and you stand still, what happens?
Yeah, you die.
Yeah, you're going to get taken over, right?
Yeah.
So, what else, you said that you didn't like the Olympic side of that, and karate point fighting is totally different. It's like one of those things when you're looking for a dojo to train at, and you walk in there and you see no trophies. That's going to be more of a, we're going to teach you kata, and we're going to teach you the bunkai, and we're going to, it's a traditional kind of thing. You might see a few trophies or something around there, but when you walk in and there's trophies all around the place, you're in a really competition style of karate. Is that where you was kind of leading to, or is that, how did your karate evolve from, where you was talking about?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was looking for a school specifically to be like, hey, I need to go to this school that's been, notorious for winning or anything like that. It was just about where was I going to get the best instruction? Where was I going to have, find the best leadership and learn how to mature as a martial artist? And when, Jadi Tenshin, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the sport karate scene, like NASCA, NBL, some of the bigger sport karate leagues, Jadi was, undoubtedly one of the very best that's ever done it. He was known as the super fighter, untouchable for many years. And, he was a tough guy, and he was harsh, when he was younger. Big attitude, very, flamboyant, hard on me, hard on all of the students. Now, his students were incredibly talented. There was not, from what I remember, not a single trophy in his school. Even now, like he's moved schools, but so his teaching was all about how do we get better. It's always get better, get better, get better. And the results will speak for themselves. And even when you win, get into school, how do we get better? So it was just really the system that attracted me to it. And I knew if he was successful and I was learning from him, he says jump, I say how high. That's the type of person I am. So we bonded right away because I just kind of absorbed everything, and I always did what he said, always did what he asked, always worked hard, didn't ask questions, just did what I had to do. And my results spoke for themselves. So I think at the time that I was ready to start moving into competition, Jadi I was attracted to that because of his leadership. He was just, I know he's been there, he's done that, he was vetted, and I liked his teaching style. He was hard, but fair. And I got the most out of it. I still do. I still go see him and train. So,
how you was explaining your childhood and things like that. And I know you probably said it, but my memory is awful. What age did you start, learning and stuff like that and going to a dojo?
Yeah, my first year in martial arts was 7 years old. So I was 7.
Okay.
And then I started competing around 12, 13. And then I met Hakeem Walker at 15, met Jadi Tenshin at 16.
So it's pretty much, good to say that you have pretty much made, a life decision to compete, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, is that one?
I'm going to stop you there. Not a life decision to compete. I mean, certainly competition at this stage of my career, as an athlete, you only have so many years to compete.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of that. I'm in my athletic prime right now. I'm in my mid 30s. That's when young males are at their peak. So I'm going to squeeze every ounce of juice out of this that I possibly can while staying healthy. I still have a full-time job, and I have a degree, so I'm very proud of that as well. But yeah, I think, martial arts is something that I've attached myself to. I love the competitive aspect of it. If I wasn't doing martial arts, I'm sure I'd be competing some other way. I think it's in my blood. But what's more important is being a martial artist long-term. I mean, that's what I've attached myself to. And it's helped me in so many other ways. And I think that's question 3 that I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, I'm a lifelong martial artist. The competition is just this chapter.
Yeah. So the thing is with artists, I mean, if they just, any kind of artist, guitar, painting, cooks, if they don't ever involve, I mean, yes, you're a great artist, you're great at what you do, but then you're just stuck in that one kind of style and thing. So you're aspect in the evolution of karate is to keep going, keep learning, you know, but still, you know, have your other life to back up on too. So like, you know, like you said, you're in your prime, you know, but especially certain fighters can only go for so long.
Right.
What do you have a degree in, and you know, what is your other job? I'm always
So
interested to see what people do.
yeah. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy. So yeah,
All
I'm
right.
actually a physical therapist. I work full time here in Rhode Island. So yeah, I absolutely love what I do. In my opinion, it's the perfect marriage between, you know, what I do as a martial artist, as an athlete, and then putting it all together, because I can break it, I can fix it, I can take care of myself, I know how to treat my body. So it works really well, especially as a competitive athlete, professional athlete. It allows me to really keep a good eye on myself, and it also forces me to practice what I preach. You know, because if I expect my clients to do what they're supposed to do and get the most out of it, I have to show them that I'm willing to do that as well. And that's what I think makes me very relatable to my clients. All of my clients know that I do this. I don't broadcast it, but they're aware through you know, conversation, and
Yeah.
you know, they see me dieting and cutting weight and training, and they see what I do. I think
A black eye every once in a while.
Well, thankfully it's been a while, but
Yeah.
yeah, I've been fortunate lately. But yeah, I think people respect that, and they relate to me, and I think that's why I've been successful.
So, you know, the thing is with that, you know, with that other career, that can actually, you know, kind of even keep you in the sport of things with helping different athletes. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's one of your things that you wanted to do, or you wanted to keep, you know, like a private, you know, business, or do you want to sit there and, you know, and go and help other athletes, you know, up and coming and things like that have problems? Is that what you're looking to do, or are you more on the, you know, anybody who wants to come in that needs help?
Already doing it. Yeah, I'm all of the above. So obviously, when I started my career as a PT, it's a very generalist population. I work in outpatient physical therapy, which means, you know, you're not staying in the facility. You come in, you have your appointment, you leave, do your work. But ever since I've transferred over to Restore Physical Therapy, which is the next place that I became an employee at, we are actually attached to a strength and conditioning gym. So naturally, we see a high volume of athletes of all ages, youth athletes, high school, collegiate, professional, semi-pro. Like we get everybody through those doors. So it's really cool. So we still treat anybody that wants to be treated, but we have a high volume, a dense population of athletes that we treat. And I do love that. And I think they love too, that they can come in and they're actually getting treated by a professional athlete. It's just cool. You know, it's very relatable, and it sparks great conversation, which I think people enjoy when they're, you know, when they're hurting and trying to get better. It's nice for them to be able to come in and feel comfortable talking about sport, you know, especially with someone who understands what they have to go through. And then to top it all off, you know, my ultimate passion is let me blend the two careers together and have, you know, who better to treat martial artists than me? You know, I have the knowledge and the experience on both sides. So let's put it all together. So actually, it's been very recent that I launched a fully digital program called Turbo Sports Performance. And it's all based around, it is geared solely for martial artists. I'm not offering this program to anybody else, and I want to reach out and help martial artists around the world. We are officially international. I have a client in Australia already. So yeah, it's going great. And there's many phases for it, you know. So if you currently have an injury, I'm going to help pull you out of that. If you're trying to prevent injuries, we have a totally, you know, effective injury prevention program. Or if you're just looking to get stronger, faster, you know, more sports performance, and kind of blend it all together. So I've been really happy with how that's going lately. It's my baby. I'm super proud of it, and I can't wait to see it grow. I want to help the community.
No, that actually sounds really cool. And you know, like I said, it'll keep you in, you know, it's like this, you know, baseball players, football players, you know, they can either, you know, quit and, you know, when they retire, you know, go off and do what they want, or they become an analyst or a coach, or, you know, a strengthening coach, and, you know, all that different things. And that right there sounds like, you know, what is there, over 100 million martial artists worldwide?
I'll work with every single one of them, you know. But I think to your point too, you look at other professional athletes and especially pro athletes when it comes to like baseball, soccer, football, things like that. That's all they know. That's all they've ever done, and they go from college. Sometimes they leave college early to go play and make that big time money, life-changing money, which all power to you.
Yep.
But like I said before, your athletic career, that window is actually a pretty small percentage of your lifetime. They leave that sport and they don't have any other skills.
Yeah.
So if you don't become an analyst, if you don't become, a coach or something like that, a lot of these guys, they don't know what to do and they blow through their money. And I even see it's even worse for, professional combat athletes, because the majority of these guys, if you're not the upper echelon of like the UFC or something like that, you're not making big money. I love what I do and I'm not upset one bit at my, my situation, but I'm not making millions of dollars competing as a martial artist, So for me, it's important to compete, have my fun, enjoy it. I want to challenge myself against the best in the world, but there's going to be a time when that's over and I have to have this. That's got to be intact, and I have to have my career in order to support my family.
And the thing is too, is, something like that, you're also in your field, you need your hands,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, I mean, some people have some hard heads. Doesn't matter if you have a glove on or not,
Sure.
it's easy to break those things, so, that right there. Now, when you went to school and stuff, was you still competing in things, or, how did that work for you?
Yeah, it was challenging, but it was a challenge I looked forward to. I was away from home. I like I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and then I lived there for 25 years, moved to graduate school in New Hampshire, where I really didn't know anybody, didn't have too many connections. That's actually where I started the majority of my kickboxing training. I didn't have an outlet for sport karate. I was still competing from, I built up enough of my, enough of my skills where I was really in my prime there in the sport karate world. I was competing against the best in the world. I was on a sponsored team, so I was still able to travel and compete. But I started picking up kickboxing just to stay in shape and fell in love with it, man. So I stuck with that. But yeah, it was really all about time management. I knew I had this many hours that I needed to be in school, this many hours to study. I had to make time to go and train just for my, my mental sake, just to keep myself sane. But yeah, honestly, I think without being tied to the martial arts, I don't know if I would have been as successful in grad school, to be honest with you.
But I didn't actually start going into a dojo, until I think I was like 39, 40, right around there. Actually, it was my daughter is getting ready to turn 5. She was 3 months old when I was in the hospital, not in the hospital, the doctor's office. My wife and our 3 or 4 month old was over in the corner, and the doctor looked at me and she goes, "Listen, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to die within 6 months." Because what happened was I had a broken neck and I broke 4 vertebrae in my neck, and I ended up having to have a spinal fusion surgery, but I didn't know that I had a broken neck for 7 years. Then a couple cage fights, was training and everything with a broken neck, which was stupid. But then one night couldn't feel anything from the waist down. Went into the hospital. They done an MRI. I was in the MRI for like an hour and a half or something like that, or it felt like that. How about that?
Sure. Yeah.
And they pulled me out, and they're like, "Okay, Mr. Morrison, get on up and we'll put you in a wheelchair." Couldn't feel anything from the neck down. I was completely paralyzed, 100% paralyzed. Couldn't move anything. The only thing I could move was my head. So I blew up on that. And like a few months, half a year before, that happened, I was gaining a lot of weight because I couldn't move and stuff like that. Sure. But then after the surgery, I couldn't stand more than 5 minutes. I couldn't walk, a good 20, 30 feet without losing feeling in my legs and things like that. Yeah. So I started gaining weight, and I went up to close to 670.
Wow.
And when the doctor says you're going to die, me and my wife was leaving. I'm like, I got to do something. And then one night in a hotel, me and her went to a casino to see a concert. And we was in the only place we could get was this shady motel. And I was sitting there laying, and I kept waking up. And I'm like, even at my size, would I be able to protect my wife if somebody just decided to kick in the door. So, that whole thing was going through my mind, am I going to be able to live the next 6 months and things like that? So I started doing Shotokan karate. I went in there. The sensei, it was so weird because like a week before that, I had a big staph infection on my face. And like it got to be like a softball almost. And I went in there. I'm like, listen, I need help. I said I can barely move. I'm like, this isn't from a fight. This right here is from staph infection, stuff like that. And she's about 5'1", 5'2", and she's like I think she's 8th degree black belt. She's been doing it. She's like close to 50, and she's been doing it since she was like 14 or something like that. And what's really cool about that is her sensei actually learned it from the inventor, I don't know, of that style, so
Sure.
I actually learned it from a 3rd generation from the original one. And it's a Tuckmara, and I think is how you pronounce his name. And he's very cool. And if you look into his lineage in karate, he actually has a lot to do with modern karate. So, I went in there, was learning from her, maybe do like 15, 20 minutes of a class. The mats actually helped me pretty good, giving me, more stability on my spine and things. Yeah. And now I got down to like 470. I'm right around like 470 now. So I lost about 200 pounds, from my journey of martial arts. Well, hello, and nice to see you again. That's right, Brock Morrison from the Brock Morrison Short Round Podcast. Yes, today is the launch of Episode 1. But the podcast will be coming out every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to watch the rest of Ross Turbo Levine, you're going to have to come back Monday at 11 a.m. See, I'm like a podcast dealer. I just give you a little bit, get you hooked. You're going to have to come back. But I'll tell you something. I may just even throw out another episode along with... Don't stop me, Todd. I know. You're over there like... Yeah. Might even just throw a whole nother episode out too. Maybe episode 2. I don't know who it may be. But you will get a full episode. Wink, wink. No, you will get a full episode. This was the launch of the podcast. But the podcast will be rolling out every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm Brock Morrison from the Short Round Podcast. Have a wonderful weekend and see you Monday, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages.
Let my blood turn this sand to mud. What you waiting for? I'm ready right now.